In ancient times, around 300 BC, a warrior met his end during a fierce battle. His body lay untouched on the battlefield for 10 whole days, with no sign of decay or deterioration, as if frozen in time. It wasn't until the 12th day during his funeral that the most extraordinary event took place. As friends and family gathered to bid him farewell, the warrior suddenly came back to life, shocking everyone in attendance. But the biggest surprise wasn't just his return, it was the insight into what happens when someone teeters on the edge of death. Though many think such stories are rare, experiences of people coming back from death are surprisingly common. In fact, about 5% of people in today's world have faced similar near-death experiences. Their stories have striking similarities, and some have even been backed by science. But what exactly are these experiences, and how did scientists begin to uncover what occurs in a person's mind as they face death? How could something so mysterious be explained? In today's video titled, "What Your Brain Sees Before Death," we will explore this fascinating topic. One man shared his story after being revived during a funeral. He described finding himself in a place on earth, standing before two doors. One led to heaven, the other to hell. When the doors opened, he saw God in heaven, who welcomed him. Well, it sounds fantastical, doesn't it? Just like the tales of heaven and hell that we heard throughout our childhood and have listened to throughout history. What might surprise you is that this isn't the only story of its kind. Many people throughout time have shared similar experiences of the afterlife. But until recently, these accounts were dismissed by scientists due to a lack of proof. However, that changed dramatically in February 2022. Over 2 millennia after these stories first appeared, a groundbreaking case came to light that forever changed how we understand near-death experiences, providing tangible evidence of what really happens in the human brain when life fades away. So, what's actually going on in our brains in those final moments? The truth is, we've always heard stories of people seeing their life flash before their eyes just before death. But now, for the first time, science has provided concrete evidence to support these claims. This happened when doctors in Canada were observing an 87-year-old patient who had been suffering from seizures. During a routine brain scan, the patient unexpectedly experienced a heart attack and died. But even after his heart stopped and blood ceased flowing to his brain, the doctors noticed something astonishing. His brain waves continued to show activity for several seconds. This spike in activity occurred in areas of the brain associated with memory recall, meditation, and dreams. Based on this, doctors began to form theories. But how can we know for sure what's really happening based on these brain waves? It's all thanks to the amazing complexity of the brain. The human brain is a network of billions of neurons, constantly communicating with each other like a classroom full of chatty students. But instead of words, neurons communicate through electrical signals. These signals are known as brain waves, and they can be measured using an EEG or electroencephalogram. An EEG doesn't measure individual neurons because the signals are too faint to pick up accurately. Instead, it detects the collective activity of groups of neurons that fire together, creating measurable waves of electrical energy. It's like being at a massive concert. If only one person claps, no one will hear it. But if the entire crowd claps together, it creates a roar of applause, which is impossible to ignore. The same thing happens with brainwaves. EEGs can measure the patterns created when many neurons fire in unison. However, since the brain is so vast, these patterns can vary greatly in frequency. To get an accurate reading, EEG machines use hundreds of tiny sensors. Typically, around 256 electrodes are attached to the head to measure brain activity. Picture slow brain waves as large ocean waves gently rising and falling, while fast brain waves are like tiny ripples skimming across the water. By measuring these waves, we can understand a person's mental state. There are 5 different types of brain waves, each with its own unique frequency. The frequency and intensity of these waves play a role in shaping our mood. Researchers have studied these factors closely to understand how they function and affect us. So let's start with the first type, the alpha waves. Alpha waves, which have a frequency of 8 to 12 Hz, act as a bridge between our conscious thoughts and subconscious mind. When these waves dominate, they help us stay calm, focused, and relaxed. They also allow us to shift smoothly from one task to another. These alpha waves may also be linked to creativity and maintaining a good mood. Moving on, we have beta waves, which are faster with frequencies above 14 Hz. These are most active when we're awake and focused on logical thinking, problem solving, and decision making. Next, there are delta waves, which have the lowest frequency and are active during deep sleep. If something goes wrong, delta waves can take over to the point where you become completely disconnected from reality. In extreme cases, this could even result in a coma. Then there are theta waves, which are associated with sleep and daydreaming. Their frequency is between 4 and 8 Hz. However, if theta waves become too active while you're awake, they can disrupt your focus, causing difficulties with concentration and possibly leading to headaches. Now, let's move on to the final brainwave type. The fifth type of brainwave is gamma waves, which have a frequency ranging from 30 to 44 Hz. These waves can be detected in every part of the brain, and they're involved in all the major cognitive functions like memory recall, learning, and information processing, almost like the brain's central processor. Now let's go back to the Canadian patient. According to his report, all these brainwave frequencies showed rapid changes with a notable spike in gamma wave activity. This led doctors to conclude that during the moments of death, the brain starts playing back memories in reverse. The most recent memories appear first because the neurons become blocked, and then the brain works backward through the past until it reaches a certain point, like rewinding a tape. But not everyone is convinced. Many scientists and doctors don't fully agree with this theory because, in their view, there haven't been enough experiments to support it. That's why some researchers began conducting human trials on people who were near death. However, predicting exactly when someone will die is difficult, and many of these trials had to be cancelled. So, what did they do instead? The researchers didn't give up. They turned to animal experiments, particularly with rats. They implanted 6 electrodes into the brains of 9 rats and then administered a lethal injection to measure their brain activity during the dying process. Right after the rats' hearts stopped beating, their brains showed a burst of electrical activity. It was as if their brains were firing on all cylinders in those last moments. Scientists also detected signs of consciousness in these rats. Interestingly, these findings mirrored reports from human patients. This kind of brain activity has been highlighted again and again, but the most heartbreaking case is that of Anita Moorjani, who had lymphoma. Instead of opting for chemotherapy, she chose herbal remedies, which unfortunately worked too slowly. Her organs eventually failed and she passed away. However, just like the warrior from 300 BC, Moorjani came back to life. After her near-death experience, Moorjani began sharing her story. Miraculously, all of her illnesses have vanished as though she had never been sick. The doctors didn't fully investigate this, but it raises an intriguing question. What's really going on during these near-death moments? What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe that at the moment of death, your life plays out like a movie in your mind? We'd love to hear your opinions in the comments. Personally, I'm still not fully convinced, but I'm continuing to look into the subject. So, if you enjoyed this video and learned something new, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to Brain Bargain. Until then, take care.